Welcome to Steel Rose Metal Co. I'm going to attempt to make YouTube videos that are not just entertaining but also educational. I'd like to highlight other craftsmen in the industry, as well as artists and food people, just kind of a cultural thing. This is the first video I've made, and I struggle with videos highlighting myself. It's not really my thing, but I'm going to attempt to make it through this endeavor and see if I can't create something that I like, and hopefully you like it as well. This video is just a collage of me working through a fender that I made for a Jeep Honcho. Hand doing, hand making. As you can see right now, I'm hammering out fine details where I split it and welded it together. The goal is to make videos that help people, not just help them better create things, but give them ideas based off the way that other people do it. Clay Milliken turned me on to doing this, and I'm going to see if I can do it well. Right now I'm just bead rolling a step into a small piece of metal that will wind up a piece of this fender. You can see that that everything that I do is just a build up on individual pieces. I like English wheeling things, bead rolling them, as well as power hammering. The English wheel is getting me a subtle contour in this flare piece. Here I'm making one section of the flare that is 3 different sections turned into one, making what I like to call the knuckle piece, so that it'll roll to a flat and knuckle into another piece with my power hammer. Mind you, you don't have to have a power hammer to get this thing to knuckle over. I used to use basically a smooth trailer hitch in a vise for many years to do this exact same thing. But of course, as you get further into it, you get bigger equipment that makes it quicker and easier. This is way quicker than using the trailer hitch endeavor. The trick here is to get it to knuckle over, but then smooth out at the same, so that there's not a bulge there, which is quite hard. Now, to start that knuckle, I mechanically shrink it. You can get a shrinker stretcher just about anywhere. Harbor Freight, Eastwood, multiple different companies. This is an old Harbor Freight model. They also have the hand shrinkers. I don't think they sell the kick one anymore, but Eastwood does. Now, once I got the 3 flare pieces welded together, knuckled over, and kind of the rough shape, I put them in the bead roller to get that beaded line in it. The reason why I did it after the 3 pieces became one is so that I don't have to go through the process of matching up the beads. They're all done in one single run, just to make it a little bit quicker and easier on myself. Mind you, if you don't have a bead roller, when I first started bead rolling, I used a hammer and a chisel. There's ways around it. I used a hand crank bead roller for a lot of years before I got a foot pedal model. So don't let money stop you from doing it. You can create it, whether you have a electric bead roller, a hand crank bead roller, or even a hammer and a chisel, you can do it. It's just a matter of the amount of time you want to spend on it and the amount of money that you want to invest in your tools. You can see the black lines on the piece there, and those lines are giving me a reference mark for folding it over into the wheel well and creating that flange. I still create that flange very old world. One day I'll get a flanging tool, but as of right now I don't have the $30,000 that's required for the Urkel flanging tool, so I still do it by hand. Just get a reference mark up there and then start folding it over. This is where I'm taking that reference mark, and I folded it kind of 90 degrees with just a pair of pliers and started rolling it and hammering it, and then rolling it on around with various hammers and dollies. Just keeping it as uniform as possible once you roll it over. Pretty simple, basic stuff. This is what they like to call a steak dolly that you put in a vise. I make these out of all different kinds of things. This specific one is just a piece of 3/16 plate on one end, and the other end is an old round chisel that I turned into a shape. Flip it over for the hard edges, and then if I want a rounded edge, I flip it back over to the rounded chisel, which is probably 5/8 to a 1/2 inch round that tapers down to a point, depending on what I want to do. The larger your pieces are, the more cumbersome they become. So I try to make as much of it as I can in smaller pieces and then join all the smaller pieces to make one big one. In some instances, like flanging, that's not doable, so you got to fight with the larger piece. Continuing to roll the edge around using various hammers and dollies. Now, in those hard corners, I normally cut those lines. You can stretch them, but it's hard to kind of equivalate the stretch versus the roll around. It'll create bumps and stuff like that. So I normally cut those corners on that very, very hard corner where it's going into a flat, and then roll the edges around and weld the piece in. I had a guy comment on Clay's post about these fenders, inquiring roughly how many hours. I would guarantee that we're somewhere around 60 hours to do these fenders, which is not fast at all. It takes a lot of time to hand form things, especially doubled to where they mirror image each other. You're doing the exact same thing, only in reverse, which kind of plays with your brain a little bit. But yeah, I would guess that we're somewhere around 60, maybe 70 hours without looking at the books and seeing the exact amount of time. Now, if there's anything that you all are wondering about or interested in these videos, please put it in the comment. I'll see if I can't cover anything that you have questions about. At this point, I had already welded the flare to the body of the fender, and I'm taking the angle grinder just to knock down the tops of the weld. That's not finished grind. Just knock off the tops and save myself a little bit of money with roll lock disc and a lot of time, because of course that does it. And then there's the end product, flare fender. Thanks for showing up. Like and subscribe.